everybody all week. Well, that's interesting to know. It's probably because I haven't gone live. So, okay, so I actually made 2 cards ahead of time that I thought we could make today. So these are the 2 cards we're going to make. And, but I thought maybe we could do this one in a different color. And then if you want to do this one in a different color, we can as well. So this one I was actually going to do in Bermuda Bay just to kind of show some versatility. You could probably do it in lots of colors. But I have another piece of the, I can remember that this paper is called World of Good, I think it is. So this is a piece of the DSP. And I actually will show you, I did a card earlier and I did a little bit of erasing and I resprayed it with the shimmer paint. And I kind of saved it, but I smudged my hand all over the black. And I was so disappointed. I thought, man, I so took my time this. So I changed this one up a little bit. So I'll show you guys that shortly. What else do I have? So we're going to be using Beautiful World. I think the whole suite is called World of Good, which I'm kind of surprised. This is a new suite, but the whole thing is retiring. But it does have stamps and some coordinating dies. You could use the circle to cut out the globe if you so choose. There's also a tall and a short globe stand. So you can see you could put them on the tall or you could put it on the short. And I'm actually going to show you that because I did that on the inside of this card. And actually, let me show you this one piece real quick. There's this little part over here that you kind of are like, what in the world does this do? So it actually cuts these little holes. So I measured this card. This card was a catastrophe because I measured it wrong. So I just added a little scrap of the brushed gold foil. And then I cut this and kind of laid it underneath. But also I used that little stand for the inside. I thought that was cute. And the map, I'll show you how I did this. Not the map, the globe. I'll show you what I did for the globe because that was just like a throw it together kind of thing. But I think this turned out really cute. Same thing, if you really look here, you can see I put my hand in this and then I must have transferred it over here. I used a little bit of, what is that called? Because I came to the end of my spool. I finally used a whole spool of ribbon, the faux suede trim. Only took me a whole year, but you guys would be so proud of me. Look, this is all I have left. I'm so proud of myself. So anyway, this is one. This has a lot of layers. I actually ended up putting the, what are these called? Sorry, after all that running down up and down the steps, it threw me off. I put the foam adhesive strips behind this because I wanted to elevate it. And I was like, I'm not going to use a whole piece of adhesive, but you could. And then I even put some behind this little piece here. And then this one, which is kind of neat. When you look at this, I actually stamped this quill, and it kind of, to me, almost looks like it could be a Christmas card. Like, you could totally stamp this, and it would look like bows, pine bows, or boughs, however you want to pronounce it. Let me say bows, I believe. So I thought this was fun, and then I wanted this to look like the pen was writing that. And then for this one, I actually ended up embossing it with clear embossing powder on black ink. So I think it turned out really cute. So we will make these cards again. Like I said, I wish we had something like with a Christmassy, because we could totally make this into a Christmas card. It would be so cute. All right, let me see. Oh, Debbie, watching me on the big screen. Thank you. Hi, Diana. Hi, Mary. It's been a crazy week, that's for sure. Hi, Cindy. Okay, so we're going to get started. So I was going to make this card with Bermuda Bay and then use the same backing piece. And then for the bigger card, I actually used Misty Moonlight for the ink. And then I just used a scrap of DSP down here. This is Early Espresso on Crumb Cake. But then I actually end up backing it onto Night of Navy. So if you guys want, we could do this as a different background color. We can change it up a little bit. The most important part of what I'm sharing with you today is how I did this little technique here. And it's nothing that's fancy. So you can see right here as well. So I am actually going to use masking paper. If you don't have masking paper, which Stampin' Up! Unfortunately doesn't carry masking paper, but you can get it on Amazon. You can get it lots of other places. Mine is another company's masking paper. But you could also, where is my big one? I have a big one and I never know where I put it. There also, you could use Post-it tape. Now, you would want one that's a little bigger than this. This one's a little bit small because you want to have a piece big enough that you could tear. So that's what I did for this. I just cut one of these pieces off and then I tore the edges of it, and I actually reused it multiple times before I switched to a new one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this. So it does come 8.5 by 11. You know what's funny? I've been doing these lives for so long that I have finally gotten to the point where I don't really get frazzled or nervous anymore like I used to, but the whole thing with the internet threw me off again, and I feel like a little flustered. I need to blah, blah, blah. Okay, I think I'm good now. So I'm gonna move this catalog out of the way. I'm so excited. My pre-order was supposed to be here tomorrow, but it's not coming until Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday now. So my in-person customers will be getting their catalog, but they'll have to wait a little bit longer. I thought it was gonna come sooner, but oh well. Also, another thing you could do if you didn't want to stamp for this, and I thought you could actually make another version of the card this way, is if you use the DSP, which is really, really pretty. So I use this little piece here on this card. I just trimmed out just a little inch section. And the card has a lot of, I believe it is the brass accents. You can see the foil accents. But some of the pieces are so pretty. I really had a hard time cutting them. This is one that's actually a map of North America. And then, where was the other one that's really cool? Must have been the other side. This one was really neat too. It was like if you were looking at the constellations, but looking at the top of the globe down. It was really neat too. So I cut this in half because I figured if I didn't, I wasn't going to use it. So one other thing, anyone who places an order using this host code here, which I will make sure that it goes to the top as well, through the month of April, I'm going to send you a random 6x6 pack of DSP. I have a lot of DSP. Most of it is retiring. There's only one thing actually that's carrying over, which is the In Good Taste DSP. So it'll be a 6x6 pack. It's brand new. You never know what you might get. I'll make sure I label it so you know what it is. But anyone who orders in the month of April, you will get a 6x6 pack. So I thought we could also even use some of this if you wanted to in the center instead of doing it the way we did it, and we could tear it. So maybe we could just do a final card like that. So before we get started, let me just move. I'm going to keep this here. Here's my masking, and these are my 2 extra pieces. Here's my little scrap. I goofed that one up earlier as well because the B didn't stamp quite as dark, so we'll use the other side of that. And this also has a great embossing folder that thankfully is carrying over. This one is called Old World Paper. And believe it or not, this was a piece of paper that I had scored. I was going to use it for something and I didn't measure correctly, so I just went and embossed it. I figured we could always use that for something. So I like to keep my scraps around just because you never know what you're going to use. Also, I have my Stamparatus out just because... oh, here's other 2 pieces I was missing. This is the other one. This one was Europe, which I thought was really pretty. It really just does something with the foil. Is really, really pretty. Okay. So I have my Stamparatus because I used it actually for the inside of this card because I wanted to make sure I didn't goof it up. So I'm going to show you. Here's how I did my other little globe. We'll do that one for that card as well. And I have my brushed foil scraps here. Here's another little piece of masking paper. I'm just trying to get a couple of these things out of the way so I don't actually clean my desk today, believe it or not, which I know sometimes sounds like an absolute miracle. Okay, so we're going to start with this, and I'm going to use a smaller piece. I just want to make sure this is cut down appropriately. A smaller piece of basic white. So I wanted this to be 3 3/4 by 5. And I'm just going to make sure this, see if I feel like I cut one of these wrong. Yep, this one was wrong. So then my DSP will be 4 by 5 1/4. So I'll just have this all cut up and ready. It's going to layer. And then my base piece I already have. You could always use this for the inside of your card if you wanted to. So we'll just set that on the side. And I hope you all are having a beautiful week. We have some beautiful, beautiful weather today in Maryland. It is just, it's beautiful. It's springy and just beautiful. That's all I'm going to say. Beautiful, beautiful weather. It's supposed to rain tomorrow, but it's not raining today. We were very fortunate. We got a new grill today. Our grill died. All right. And I have my quill here. So we're going to use that. I'm going to put this on the side so I don't mess it up. Okay, so just to kind of give you a little bit of a general thing with masking paper. So masking paper is kind of like the lightest tack, like a Post-it note. So it has release paper, and then the other side is like a tack. So what I'm going to do is, let me just scoot this out of the way. I'm actually going to just take this piece and tear the edge. And I don't really even need to take the release paper off of the whole thing. I'm going to attempt not to, just so I don't mess it up like I did before. Mark Zuckerberg didn't pay his electric bill. Isn't that funny? Doesn't it make you wonder sometimes when things don't work, what is it that happened? Or is it that people don't want us to craft together? I mean, geez whiz, people. Just me being snotty. But it kind of makes you think, like, why? Why? And why of all days on a Thursday at 5:30, right? Okay, so I have my piece of white cardstock. I'm just going to start calling it white because I keep wanting to call it Whisper White and whatever. You know, maybe you still have Whisper White. So what I'm doing is, and I kind of started with this, not as much with the quills. I'll show you what it looks like and you can decide which way you like it. But I kind of just picked about 1/3 of the way. And I'm going to just press my masking paper down, and it kind of doubles as it holds this down. You don't really have to pull this part off. I'm just going to keep it connected for the heck of it. But you want to make sure that the edge is connected. That's probably the most important part, so you don't have any like bump up pieces. So I have my quill, and we're using Bermuda Bay. And I'm just kind of randomly stamping in multi-generation. You can see I'm not being very specific. Patterns. So if you want, you could stop here, okay? And I'm going to show you what it looks like. The only thing is when you use masking paper, especially if you haven't used it before, you want to make sure that you pull against it, kind of like if you're using purple tape. Now you can see right here, there's not really very much edging to it, which is why I ended up adding more. So I just want to give you like a peel away. You can kind of see it looks like it's cut off. But if you, just being careful, if you continue inking it so it's kind of covered, you can see the pattern of that edge a little bit more. So I'm going to show you. And this is probably a pattern that you could use for anything else. You could do this with flowers, you could do it with leaves, but essentially what you're trying to do is to have like a little rough edge that will give you a blank space in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and peel this away. And again, I'm trying to peel it away from itself so it doesn't get stuck, because I have had a couple pieces get stuck, but it does come off pretty easily. So here's one, okay, and then we want a big space, and then I'm going to do the same thing here. So I'm just kind of lining it up where it was, but I'm going to make sure that this middle part isn't quite so big as the first time I did it, okay? So I'm going to do the same thing again, but I'm going to bring it down some. So I'm just trying my best to kind of line it up. It doesn't really necessarily have to be straight. And one other thing I'm going to do, because I used this with the ink before, is I'm going to just press this so it's on that little piece of release paper, just to make sure it's at the edge. Most of that ink at this point is dry, but you do want to be cautious of that. So same thing again, you just have your pieces, and we're just going to continue just inking in a random pattern. And I find that if you do fill it in more, it kind of gives you a little bit better of the torn edge look. But I do really think that this could bizarrely cover for pine boughs. bows, whatever way it is you say it. So there's that. Okay, so I'm going to peel this off. And I am going to use the same piece. I'm just trying to make sure I don't have any wet fingers when I'm pulling this off. I am going to use this same strip when I do the other card. So I'm just taking this and sticking it. I have a shelf that I stick all my like sticky stuff to up here. So there's that. So you can kind of see the little edge there. Okay. So we are going to still use our pen because we want to do our quill. Now I did make the mistake this time of I kind of cut the tip of it off. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to stamp. What do we want to do? I'm going to do Life is a Beautiful Journey this time. Excuse me. Just going to switch it up a little bit. And I'm actually going to use VersaFine ink because it gives you a little bit better detail. But one other thing I'm going to do, and I didn't do this earlier and I should have. I'm going to grab my clear embossing powder and my coffee filter. And I'm going to go ahead, whoopsie, and I'm going to turn on my embossing gun or my heat gun, which is on the Boss. This is a holder that Crafter Solutions made for me. So it heats up, so it heats really fast so it doesn't warp my paper too much. So you're going to hear that in the background. Just going to turn that on and stand my iPad back up. Okay. So I'm going to do one more thing. Where in the world? Here it is. Nope. I'm just going to run my embossing buddy over this. And the reason is I didn't do it earlier and I had a couple little sticky spots from that adhesive from the masking paper. So that was just gently. Okay. So this ink that I'm actually using now, this is a pigment ink. So it does stay wet longer. So I'm just going to ink this up. Okay, and I'm going to put this here. All right, and then I'm actually going to, you could stamp the quill because that is how long this will stay wet, but I'm actually going to heat this first, oops, or sprinkle it first because I don't want it to stick to the quill. Okay, oops, forgot to dump. You could do this in whatever order. I did it in a completely wacky order when I made the first one earlier today. So it just kind of depends. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp this. And I'm just trying my best to kind of line it up without putting my head in the way. So it looks like the quill wrote the word. That's pretty good. I have a little something on this. I have to clean that off. Let's have a little splotch. Okay, so now I'm going to just heat this just to set that clear embossing powder. And I noticed there's a little bit, I'm going to show you one more trick just in case you might be new. There is still a little bit of stray embossing powder down here, which honestly, it's going to be on white, so you're not going to really notice. But if you have a little paintbrush and say there was a little spot somewhere you didn't want it to be, just take your paintbrush and kind of flick it. You can pull it off. And then I usually tap it with the back. I feel like I do a better job tapping that way. All right, so I'm going to heat this. Should only take a second. And it's going to make it super, you can see the difference, super shiny. Okay. So, and that way it also kind of cuts down. If you heat your heat tool before you use it, oh man, it's so beautiful. I love the way that works. The only thing that's different is the quill doesn't match the ink, but you know, our, what do they call that? Creative license, right? All right, so let me just, while that's cooling off a sec, I'm going to clean these off really quickly. Creative license. Is that like the heart of every single thing we do when we're making cards, right? Creative license. All right, there's that. My stamp has like a little smudge of something on it. There we go. All right, so for this card, this one was pretty straightforward and simple aside from that. So I have my piece. Let's see if this is the correct one. Yep. So I just have this little piece of DSP. That's the other side. You could have done this with, if you wanted to, with, I think that's Misty Moonlight. And then you could have done the quills in that. That would have been really pretty as well. I actually thought of doing that with the green, but it was just a teeny bit too much contrast. So I'm going to just take my base and actually really quickly, let me just wipe this off because there's a little bit of powder. So I'm going to just use my bone folder to really crease this. And then I'm going to put these, this one kind of looks like, you really won't see the words because they're covered up, but I'm still going to go to the effort of gluing it correctly. So I'm just going to put a little bit, I do like to make sure I get the edges. And that. And because it was heat embossed, I just want to make sure I really give it a nice press so it stays flat. Lisa, yeah, you know what? She actually was out. She posted a picture on Facebook. You could look at it if Facebook was working, but since it's not, she posted a picture of her and Dominic. They went and watched, I think it was the sunset. Donna, correct me if I'm wrong, the other night. And said they were feeling closer to Daddy because they got to see the sunset. I know it is, I cannot imagine having a child lose a parent so young. Must be absolutely devastating. However, Lisa, I don't know her personally, but she seems like an incredibly strong, caring person who really focuses everything on Dominic. So I think that's probably going to help him through this horrible time. But I think about them all the time too. Every time I do anything with my son, and I think about, my God, if he didn't have both his parents. But beautiful card. And I do love the embossing. I think it really makes it, instead of it just being plain black. And it was just a little bit of clear embossing powder. So which one do you prefer? Bermuda Bay, and then this one is just Jade. I like both of them for different reasons. I think they're really, really pretty cards though. And then the other thing I was going to say is I did cut this little scrap off. So if you wanted to, you could add a little white panel to the inside. Honestly, you could even do it just plain. And I'm going to do that for this one. I'm just going to add this little piece in here just to kind of jazz up the inside a little bit. Could probably put some stamped images on here as well, but we'll just kind of keep this one minimal. That one said what? Life's a beautiful journey. Oh, this is nice. Let's just add this. Thank you for being part of mine. Because I was trying to think, what would you even use this thank you for? But this kind of would go with this well. I am going to stick with black. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp this and I'm going to set it on the side because the Versa Fine, since it is a pigment ink, it takes a little bit to dry, which is why I'm always smudging it. Just going to off-center that a little bit. So that's a really pretty card. I'm going to sit this somewhere so the inside can dry so I can actually use it and I don't smudge it. So there was card number 1. Again, I did earlier, just Jade for the first one. So it kind of just depends on what you prefer color-wise. But I do think these are definitely colors that are not in the catalog. So it's a lot of stuff that necessarily isn't the same thing that you've seen. So for this card, we can stick with the navy. And then I just did, this was vanilla because I didn't want it to be, I wanted to have some contrast between the white background. So what do you guys think? Do you want to stick with this? We could also go with Mossy Meadow, I think would be really pretty. We could do Mossy Meadow. Let's see. Put the glue on the DSP. Why? It's so much better than putting the tape runner on. I just got my catalog. So I literally, it just came in the mail. I got my other one because I was registered for On Tour. So let's see. Anybody have any other colors? We could do, this would be pretty. We don't necessarily even have to do, again, I did do magenta, geez, it was Misty Moonlight with the navy. So we could even do like a lighter green. Maybe we could do Old Olive instead. Oh, we thought I was going to do the wrong side. That's okay. I'm surprised I don't do that sometimes, quite honestly. So we could do Mossy Meadow. I think it definitely needs a darker color though. You could probably even do Blackberry Bliss. I don't know whether or not purple would be so fancy, but I don't know. I really do like Blackberry Bliss. I don't use this color near enough either with the globes. All right, I'm going to keep this because I'm going to see what we all decide on. And if we use, actually, if we end up using Mossy Meadow, we probably could even bring in one of the lighter DSP pieces and stamp on that. Let me just fold this one just in case. Let's see. Oops, that's wrong. Hold on. I don't think this is trimmed correctly. Nope. My measurements have improved. I know I've said this before, have improved like a bazillion fold since I've been stamping. Let's see. Because this one, you could even kind of substitute that in. Might be a little bit dark. This would be nice. Could have that on there instead. And then we could add a little white panel and kind of do a opposite. Let's see what that looks like. Hold on a second here. This one's going to be a little too dark. I'm going to trim this. We're just going to pull a piece that's 4, 5 1/4. So this one will kind of be a little bit different, and I will add this to the inside. And let's see, I'm going to need a little piece here. So if we're going to do, what was this one? This one was corner to corner. So I will make this one 5 1/4. Let's do this 2 1/2. Actually, I'm going to do 2 3/4, and then we'll rip and see what we need to do from there. That one's definitely going to need to be ripped some. All right, so we're going to do this one right now. So I made the executive decision since everyone was talking. Just kidding, that's a joke. I hope everybody knows that. I'm going to rip the edges of this. So we're going to do this a little bit opposite. Just to show you that you can always do just a little something different depending on what you want to do. Then my one friend, Rhonda, does not like to make any 2 cards the same. So we're going to go just like that. She said she cannot ever make cards the same. She likes to, and I'm kind of like, feel like sometimes I like to be a factory stamper, that I stamp everything the same and then I assemble it the same. So I like doing those kinds of things. This, we could also put a little piece, since I have a little bit of that ribbon left, we could put a little bit of ribbon maybe underneath. And ooh, I don't know what that might look like. That might not be, actually maybe we'll put it up at the top. We'll do that. We're going to save that for a minute though. So we're going to decide what our sentiment is going to be. So we already did the beautiful journey. How about, I wonder what this one will look like. You make the world a better place. I might need to flip that around because this is a little bit bigger of a sentiment. Okay, so I think I'm going to go like that. And I know I said I was going to use my Stamparatus, but I'm going to have to say pause for 1 minute because I'm going to use this first. Hold on, I have my gigantic, it's already me starting sun tea season here. I've made like 3 mason jars of sun tea. That's one of my favorite things about spring and summer. All right, so I have early espresso. And well, that turned out pretty well. Okay, and since I don't want to do it with early espresso. I feel like it'll be just a little bit dark. I'm going to bring my crumb cake and my semi-clean sponge. And just because this is torn, I'm going to just ink this up. And I'm going to just ink the edge. So it kind of looks like a torn paper. I'm going to try not to smudge my ink here because I am infamous for that. Same here. And just kind of sponging the edges. And if you feel like you're bending it down a little bit, you can always too kind of take this and back and forth. And then it'll really have kind of an old look because it'll get into the little crevices of that paper. And then if you're lucky enough, you put fingerprints all over it like I just did. That's okay. We're going to pretend like this is really old. Might as well just add a couple little smudgy spots to it, right? Make it look super authentic. Okay, so we have that. You know what we could do? We could do the ribbon. Instead of going this way, we could wrap a little piece of ribbon around this way. How about that? Look at that. Sometimes I even amaze myself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of the Stampin' Seal. And I'm just going to run this here because I know it's going to be, I always end up doing it just a little bit too short. And I'm going to take this and wrap it just like so. And I don't want to go so much that it's pulling, but just enough. Okay. What's that look like? Not too bad. And then, where am I? I had the green for this one. We'll do that. Oh, you know what I could have done? Put a little belt buckle, but no biggie. We're not gonna stress over that. I am going to take a mini glue dot and put underneath of this just to kind of keep this ribbon in place. So I'm just kind of sliding it under there. There we go. I probably could have done a little bit of tape runner, but honestly I was afraid I'd put it in the wrong location. So all right, so we're gonna go with that. And since this doesn't have a whole lot to it, I'm gonna pop this up, and I'm just looking to see if there's, oh, you know what I'm gonna do? Look at that. I have a piece here, the little scrap piece here. Doesn't really matter what color because this is the brushed, it's gold, copper, and champagne. So I'm just going to use this little piece, just add a little something to it. It's another little thing that I have here. So I'm kind of going to eyeball it. And I really like the fact that this has the straight edges on the sides. And we'll just put, kind of go with right about there. I am going to try to attempt to make this in a straight line. So I'm going to come over here so I can see if I can run my tape runner. That's why I am also not a fan of tape runners, because I never seem to be able to do it straight. Okay, let's see. And I'm lining, I do have to trim this just a little bit. And try not to press it. Let's see. Actually did a pretty good job there. That's impressive for me. All right, so I'm just going to snip this. Just going to flip this over and snip, just like so. And then this one, I said I was going to put up with dimensionals, but you know what? I have some little pieces of the foam adhesive. So I'm just going to use this since I have it. Kind of go like that. Going to just cut out a little piece here. That'll be good enough. Peel this off. And if you are a little bit nervous about adhering this, you can actually put some liquid glue here and it'll kind of give you a little wiggle room. So I'm going to go right like, kind of just trying to make sure it's lining up correctly. That looks pretty good. Press that down. Throw this away. I've been trying to like wrap up all the stuff I have, so that way when I get new stuff, I won't feel guilty about not using my old stuff anymore. All right, so looks good. And let's make sure my card is opening correctly. So here is, I wanted to tell you one other thing, and I only thought of this because I just realized I goofed this up. I want to tell you something. So when you put your, whatever, the Stampin' Seal Plus on, if you notice, when you put this on, it's kind of got some ridges to it. It's almost like ribbed. And I am ending up getting a little piece up here where I don't want it. And you can actually roll this. So if you kind of put it in the wrong spot, you can roll it and roll it off of your card. Now, it doesn't work so great when you have foil paper next to it. But if you notice that you overran where you wanted it to be and you roll it up, it does come off, actually, believe it or not, pretty easily, considering it's like the high strength adhesive. But just as an FYI in case, because I did that earlier when I did this card, and I actually could roll it back down. It's probably because it was the regular paper. But so there's card 2. So it's kind of like a spin on this one, and then we'll do one more for this one. So this one we'll see. You know how sometimes when you're pushing the boundaries, things may or may not be super duper. So we're going to use Blackberry Bliss for this one. This could be a good card or a doozy. So let me just fold this in half. We'll see what this looks like. And one other thing with this one, you kind of need a little bit of a lighter panel in here because this is a pretty dark cardstock. So even with this here, so this is just a 4 by 5 1/4 panel, and I'm just going to adhere this little strip to it just to use the rest of this piece of paper. This is the little piece we cut off. I forgot about that I wanted to do that. And put that on here. It should line up perfectly. And if it doesn't, you can just trim it if you need be. It's probably like a teeny hair that's so unnoticeable. I'm not going to cut it off. So there's that. And then I'm just going to glue this down. And then I won't put a sentiment on the inside of this one because I'm not sure what I will use it for. This could be a really great thinking of you card. This would be a great card for Lisa because she definitely makes the world a better place, especially for Dom, that's for sure. So really pretty card. Easy. Wasn't too complicated. The explaining makes it sound more complicated than it was. So for the final card, again, I have a piece. I just want to make sure. Yep. So this white is 4 by 5 1/4. So we're going to do the same thing that we did. I'm going to do the same thing for this card. I'm going to show you exactly what I did. Okay. So I'm going to put this on the side and I'm going to grab the 2 globes, and you honestly don't really need both of them. Maybe what I think I'm going to do is, I had this thought after I did the first one, that if you did full strength ink and then stamped off vice versa around, I think it might look cool. So I'm going to try that instead. So let me grab my Blackberry Bliss and let me grab 2 blocks. All right. Okay, so we're going to make, since we're in the Northern Hemisphere, we're going to make Northern Hemisphere lighter. I shouldn't say Northern Hemisphere. United States, we're going to make darker. And then we're going to do Africa and Eurasia and Australia. We'll do those lighter, okay? So I'm going to go, oops, I forgot one thing. I forgot my paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to same thing again. I'm kind of trying to just find a square edge here. Move these over. And I'm just lining this up. And I kind of want to line it up enough that you can see that it's a globe. So you can see down here the way I lined this up, I added the DSP to the top here, and there's a lot of white space. I ended up with the white space because the way I laid this out, and I wanted to add the compass in. But I'm going to have it so I want you to be able to see some of the globe, okay? I hope that makes sense. I'm just making sure this is pressed. And since I'm a righty, let's see what this looks like. Oh, hold on. Let me add some ink to this real quick because last thing you want is something that's not very well inked. All right, so again, that was Blackberry Bliss. And whoo, you can see how dry that was. I didn't even have to press it in. I'm just gonna use my spoon just to make sure it's down. Okay. All right, let's try that again. Much better. Okay. Still a little weird, but. All right, so we're going to do full strength. We'll say skip. Full strength. And even though this one's kind of hanging off. All right, so then I'm going to take my other continents. And those are inked up, and I'm going to stamp these off. And I'm just going to repeat for that one. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing again. I'm just going to close this just for a second so I don't have a catastrophe. Now, one other thing, I almost flipped this over and stamped it upside down when I was doing it because I really wasn't paying 100% attention, which I guess would be perfectly fine. But I kind of wanted it all to be the same direction when you look at it. So I'm going to actually turn it over to tape it, but then I'm going to flip it back over when I stamp it so it is facing the correct direction. So I'm just trying to be a little bit careful because that Blackberry Bliss might still be just a little bit wet. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing again. So I'm just flipping it over. I'm just trying to find a straight spot to line it up so I know I'm kind of stamping straight. All right, so once again, now these do have different generations of ink. You can see the line of where I stamped. So I want to make sure I stamp this off. That way I don't have any, like a half, this part is really inked and then these sides of it don't have anything. So I just want to stamp this off before I re-ink it, just to make sure it's all the same generation of ink. So same thing again. I'm just going to re-ink it. And same for this one again. I'm just inking, stamping off. Okay. So let me close this for now. Put these out of the way. I'm going to show you one other thing that I did. So I'm just going to pull this. And I'm going to give this a moment to dry. Okay, so you have that little kind of white strip. This works really great as a technique for a hole if you have flowers and leaves. It's a beautiful technique because you can see the edges. I really, really like it. It's definitely fun. So if you haven't done this before, this is not anything new, but if you haven't done this before, it's definitely worth a try just to see how you like it. I think sometimes doing things that you haven't done in a while or trying an unusual stamp set is always fun. All right, so I want to be able to stack these, and I want to show you what I did for the inside of this. So this is crazy, but this is just a piece of very vanilla, and I just cut a little piece of double-sided adhesive. So I'm going to just rip a little piece off of here so you can see what I did. Let's see. Just cut. It doesn't have to be huge. But I did this because that globe that we're going to die cut is pretty intricate. So it just kind of makes it a little bit easier to stick. So, oops. So on the other side there. So I took, and this is the part that's silly. I took my crumb cake ink pad and I kind of just went like this. That's really it. Super technical and fancy. If you wanted to do more than one color, you could. And then I just picked one of the globes. So earlier, I think this one was North America. Yeah, I already did that one. So we'll do the opposite. So I will do Eurasia, Australia, and Africa. So I'm going to just put this on here, kind of just pick a spot. I'm going to tape it on just with a piece of Post-it tape. And then it will already have adhesive. Actually, I'm going to scoot it over a little bit so it has more adhesive. It'll already have adhesive on the back. And then the other thing I did was I ran the little bottom through to hold the globe. So let me at least pick something scrappy that'll fit. What do we have? That looks like it'll fit. So that is, I believe, a piece of, kind of looks like copper. So I'm going to cut this. Same thing. You could do this with the same thing with the adhesive, but it's so small I'm not going to worry about it. All right, so I'm just going to put these two. Whoops, this one is, I'm going to need to do this in a different direction. Like that. And this one like that. So I just have both of these on my die cutting machine on my Big Shot. Same thing, I just have my one platform. I'm going to run these through. Okay, so the beauty about this is, granted this part's for the inside. You have your little inside die cut like that. And then, throw this away. Let me put my tape back up here. When you pull out your globe, you're going to see it has all these little pieces, and they come out super easy because of having that adhesive sheet on there. So I'll show you that part in 1 second. Let me just get a couple of these things out of the way so I can finish up. Only because I'm using my older camera today, and I'm afraid it's going to die. So We're going to put, these will be for the inside. I'm going to add my sentiment to the inside as well. And I feel like, I think I'm kind of going to stick with the same thing. So same thing again for this. Where is my little compass? And I want to make sure that I know which side is north. And of course, I cannot see it. I'm going to do that in Blackberry Bliss as well. Let me just see if I can tell. I think this is north. Nope, that's west. This is north. Okay, so I'm just going to stamp this here. Okay, like that. And I want to grab a little piece of DSP to bring in. Doesn't have to be anything super fancy, but I kind of want something contrasty. I feel like I might use, how the black will look on that. It might look a little too dark. I have this. Maybe I'll do a little strip of this. I think I'm going to do that. Was that the one? Yep, I used the other piece. I'm just going to trim a little piece off of here. This is the piece we used for the other card that we created. So I'm just going to cut a little 1 inch by, I think this is 4. Yep, a little 1 by 4 inch strip. So 1, 4. Oh my gosh, no, that wasn't 4. Blondie, that was bigger because that was cross strip. It's okay. I'll use that for something else. That was 5 1/4. I think it was 5 1/4. Yep. Okay. That looks good. And then same thing. We can stamp our sentiment onto something like we did with this one. We can stick with the same kind of theme. I'm not going to go with crumb cake. Instead, I'm going to use Sahara sand because it's just a shade lighter. So I'm just grabbing just a scrap piece, nothing fancy, but I am going to still stamp it in the early espresso ink, just so it's darker. And let me see, is that still the one I wanted to use? Yeah, I'm going to still stick with the Life is a Beautiful Journey. So let me show you that. All right, so I kind of wanted it to go to one side. That way we would have the opportunity to tear it. All right, that looks good. I'm going to let this sit and dry. We're going to finish the inside in the meantime. So we have this and our, whoops, our base. So I'm going to sit this here. I didn't include this. The only reason I had this is because I ended up trimming this too small the first time. So if you wanted to add that, you could, but I'm not going to put it on this one. I'm going to let this dry. We're going to put this together and then I'm going to pull out the Stamparatus to stamp that inside part. So when you have your adhesive on the back here, probably the hardest part about this is finding out what is actually the correct direction, because it is a little, I don't want to say globby, but so you're going to pull off your, oh my goodness gracious, no, I didn't just do that. I did. I pulled the paper in half instead. You're going to pull off your adhesive sheet. You're not going to rip your paper in half. And you can see so many of the pieces stick to it, which is super awesome. And then with the other couple pieces, you can usually kind of, I usually will get them to stick to one finger. I think that's the part that I ripped up top there. Yeah, I did. Let's see if I can pull this through without tearing it any farther. Oh my goodness. Boy, I did a number on that one. Okay, so here is your map. Let me just get these little stickies off my finger. You could also, if you wanted to, peel the back off and then stick this to your silicone mat because it will hold it in place as well. It'll keep all the yucky stuff off. So I'm just going to kind of set this here. Oops, look at that. See? I'm almost out of time. It's telling me. I'm going to set that there. And I'm going to add a little bit of liquid glue. Come on. Oop, that's a little much. Just spread that around. I'm going to take the little holder and press that here. I'm going to give it a second. We're going to put all this together. And I don't know, usually I don't have enough time to say goodbye but I'm going to check and see if I can read any comments before it croaks on me. Okay, here is my Stamparatus, and I'm bringing this in again just to do the sentiment so I know that it's straight. So I did this earlier, as you can see. So I'm going to just try to pick a spot for this. Okay, and kind of right like that. Trying to make sure it's, for the most part, straight. All right. I'm going to do early espresso again, just so it's some cohesive. I don't want to go to black and espresso and be too many different things. So just a press. There we go. Beautiful. And we're going to set this so it has a moment to dry. And we'll put this together real quick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of tape runner down here. I'm going to line this up. Now you don't have to do it so it's over the top there necessarily. If you want to have that little crinkly part down, you just kind of have to decide where you want it. That. And I'm going to, just going to do a little loose thing here. Okay, so I'm just going to tear all the way around. We can always trim the one end. Same thing on the other one. I did sponge the edges of this. That's up to you. If you want to do it, you can. But I like keeping this lined piece so I can trim it off, okay? So there's that. I'm going to grab a couple dimensionals and put on here. Let's see. See what that looks like. Like that. That looks good. That one might be a little bit close. So I'm going to look at this one dimensional just to make sure it's actually on the card. Okay. Flip it. Snip this end just to make it match. So there's that. Throw all these scraps away. All right, almost done. The only thing we have to do is just add our inside. Ooh. Come on, glue. I have troubles, right? It's either the glue doesn't come out because it's empty, or it's brand new glue and it's everywhere. I kind of like the color combination because we have a little bit of crumb cake, but I like Sahara Sand if it's with a really bold color. So that's pretty nice. All right, and then I'm just going to put a little bit of liquid glue in here so I can add in my inside panel. And that way, hopefully, I can run through comments real quick just to make sure there's no questions. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I know I started a little late, and also I was supposed to be on Facebook. So there's that. I was kind of everywhere today. We'll see if Facebook ever gets its act back together. If not, I guess I'll just be on here from now on, which is a little bit easier sometimes. So let me scoot a couple of these things out of the way so you can see our project that we created today. These really pretty cards. Again, this one had the extra piece because I goofed that one up. I actually made that one way long ago. Look at this. I have 5. See what happens when I got a little bit adventurous today. I made some stuff ahead of time, and I didn't even smudge my inside sentiment there. I'm so proud of myself. So Bermuda Bay, this was just jade. Ended up doing this one on Mossy Meadow in the back. And we did add something to the inside of all of our cards. I think this one I didn't because I did this one earlier. But we did something to the inside of all of our cards. This one has our little globe. Another little globe in here. This one definitely has a little bit of heft to it because I put dimensionals on this and on this layer. But you can put as many or as few on as that you desire. It's, you know, totally up to you. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm just going to check through real quick. Hopefully nothing will cut off. Julie, thank you for joining. Oh goodness, it's getting breezy in here. Papers are blowing everywhere. I'm going to keep my re-sticky paper up there with me. Thanks, Kathy. Thank you so much. I appreciate you stopping in. All right. Thank you very much, Charmaine. I really appreciate that. I usually don't do cards ahead of time, so I think I did a good job when I did them ahead of time this time. Usually it would make me all nervous and I would goof something up the wrong direction. So at least I kind of got that right. If you missed it in the beginning, any order through the month of April will receive a 6x6 sampler pack of DSP. I have lots of DSP I need to clear out to make room for new. So if you use, I do have an online code here. If you use this online code when you shop, it will guarantee that you will get it. I'll make sure that I send you one. I don't usually send my thank yous out until the end of the month though, so don't fret, but I usually do send an email. And I love the torn edges too. Again, I think this would work really well doing this for a floral theme, but I just wanted to show something else you could do with this beautiful suite that will be retiring. So hold on, it's almost ready to kick me out. So I think that is it. Thank you all very, very much for joining me. I truly appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And I will see you guys again Tuesday evening, 5 to 5:30. Could be here, could be on Facebook. Even when I said I was going to be live on Facebook earlier, it didn't work out. So I don't really know what to say, but thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you all again real soon. Thanks for watching.